Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm Angela Wilkinson, intuitive coach and founder of the Awakened Goddess Academy. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Alexis Saloutos holds her degrees in nutrition from Bastyr University. She is trained in a variety of healing modalities, including Reiki, craniosacral, autonomic response testing, applied psychoneurobiology, flower essences, and more. Chakredy is an energy field that Alexis engages with directly. The Chakredy system has revealed itself over the years through pendulum work and the dreamscape, bridging the seen with the unseen. It's an assimilation of guidance from mentors from this life and beyond, and a lineage of ancient teachings that have been reclaimed through remembering, pulled through the ethers into form. With an international outreach, Alexis helps others to embody their inherent intuitive abilities, expand their energetic awareness, and experience magic both personally and professionally. She attunes, trains, and certifies other practitioners in this method as it encompasses an entire system of energetic assessment, healing, and vibrational remedies. Now let's welcome Alexis. So welcome, Alexis.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Let's start with giving kind of a foundation of your system and a brief overview of the chakra system and the organ energies. So let's start there.
Okay, that sounds like a great starting point. So I'll just touch on first how this came to be. So my academic background's in nutrition. I got my hands on every energetic modality I could in studying, both during my education and then also after I finished my master's degree, and came across some really cool things. Learned everything from craniosacral to Reiki to different types of muscle testing. And in my work with one of my mentors, I connected with the organ energies. And that really opened up a serious gateway, I feel, into what is my work now. And after incorporating all of these styles of healing work into my nutrition practice, I would essentially have a client come in, lay down on the massage table, muscle test the person. And for those of you who aren't familiar with muscle testing, it's just a way to directly engage with the energy system and also with the physical body. And I had this crystal pendulum and started bringing it into my work and was holding it over the energy field and just seeing what happened, and really had no idea what would come from it. And I'm not kidding. One day it all came together and I realized that the pendulum moved in a very specific way over specific parts of the body, and that those parts of the body were the chakras. And the chakras had been just, they had been brought into my sphere, but they were never a primary focus of any work that I did. And so it was a surprise to me that I started to become this chakra person and this chakra expert, that the whole Chakredy system was really rooted in the chakra system. Now it makes so much sense, because the chakras for me are really the bridge between the physical and the energetic, and they're an incredibly powerful access point and provide tremendous insight into how we connect in with our own internal experience and how we relate to our environment as well. So I just wanted to give that brief overview before moving into the chakras and the organ energies. So I use this very cool crystal pendulum that helps me get into direct communication with the energy system. And I train other practitioners now in this method too, in the Chakredy system, to which can be done in person and also remotely. And it's really quite fascinating, like how we're having this virtual experience and conversation now, that we can also connect in with energy flow in this way too, that we can do that from anywhere that we are. So the chakras are these powerful and really big energy centers. They're always fluctuating. And like I had mentioned, they're communicating how we connect with our internal environment and how we relate to our external. They also can provide a really powerful lens into deeper aspects of the energy. So they're always moving. And when you connect in with, if I were to do and will do at some point in the call a chakra assessment using this tool, it can give me a snapshot of how the energy is flowing within these centers. And these centers hold, they house different organ energies. They can relate to different parts of the body, and they can also relate to different aspects of our experience. So for example, the root chakra, which is the first chakra, is the energy center that really connects us with the physical realm, our body, food, family. It has so much to do with grounding and roots. And it's a harder energy for a lot of people, like me included, who really love to stay up here and create and innovate and connect up with the ethers. And so bringing the energy down and really being present in the body can be quite challenging. And I spent 2 years, and I'm not kidding, learning how to ground my energy because that's how challenging it was.
Yeah. Well, and it's so important that you have your energy grounded, because otherwise you aren't. I understand that if you're not grounded, you're not able to manifest. Is that what you understand?
Definitely. And from my lens, I feel that the manifestation process is so connected in with, we can look at all parts of the energy system and how it relates to each, but specifically crown chakra, solar plexus, root chakra. So if we are pulling in something from the ethers and universal energy and then moving it down through the root for it to manifest in our physical experience, it tends to get really stuck at the solar plexus. And so I look at those 3 energy centers as powerful parts of the system to focus on when supporting manifestation. But yes, absolutely, bringing things through into physical form and manifesting has so much to do with the root. And it can be a hard part of the energy for a lot of people to connect with and work with.
Yeah, I totally can relate. And it's also important for a good foundation. I know that for many years, the way people would describe me is that I got the cart before the horse. So I'm an Aries, so I'm always jumping into things and moving ahead and following that inspiration. And so I realized, a few years ago that I didn't have a good solid foundation because I was always leaping forward. So I imagine it had to do with my root chakra not being grounded.
Right? Because those roots and that foundation sets the tone for everything else, and really allows everything else to be built upon in a strong and stable way. And so it makes so much sense. So these energy centers, they're like push pins connecting the energy bodies with the physical body. So again, acting like that bridge. And then the organ energies, which are very different from the chakras, are deep, specific, and tend to house unresolved emotion. And so from my framework, when I look at the organ energies, I look at them through the lens of a specific chakra. So that uses prioritization, and we prioritize energetic imbalances in the Chakredy system. So looking at which chakra is prioritizing in relationship to which organ energy. And that alone, that priority pathway alone, can provide an incredible starting point in whatever tools you're bringing forth in supporting a client or looking at how you can support yourself. That information, when we ask the energy to show us where's a great place to start, it can be so helpful. So helpful.
Now, is it that a particular organ is always associated with the same chakra, or do those mix and match?
I would say I'm always looking at, so I'm double Aquarius with Aries moon. So I feel like I'm always, wanting to invent and create new systems, but I've got the Aries moon inside. So I feel that intensity, even if I'm not seen in that way. So I get the Aries energy big time. And I would say that I can see relationships between all of those connections, but I tend to look at organs that are housed by a specific chakra. So, for example, the sacral chakra, which is essentially the womb, it houses the bladder and the reproductive energies. And so that's a way in which I usually relate to the organ energies.
Cool. So I'm curious if we can explore I understand that there's a connection between the sacral and the heart chakras. Can you talk
Definitely.
about that?
Definitely. So I love this way of relating to the chakra energies like wheels. And these wheels hold different aspects of our energy and our experience. So, for example, the sacral chakra, many people might be familiar with some of the things that are connected with the sacral. So, relationships and career and money. These are all things that we tend to associate with the sacral chakra energy.
Isn't that like life? I mean, that's like all the big ones.
Yeah. And then you look at it being the womb for creation. I mean, actual creation, babies being, coming through, being held in this part of the energy and then being birthed through the root chakra energy. It's just so powerful and there's so much going on. And then, so creativity, so much there, relationships, money, career. But then I also connect with the sacral chakra as the house for energetic boundaries. And this is not maybe the most common way to connect in with the sacral, but I really feel that there's an energetic anchoring that happens in this energy center that helps us really pull our energy up and be clear and centered in our own energy. And for me, of course, that relates into the solar plexus, which I know most people who have heard me talk about Chakredy hear me talk about how I love the solar plexus.
Yes.
But the sacral is really tied in with energetic boundaries. And so if we look at this anchoring piece, how we stay anchored in the sacral part of our own system, we can see how things might become blurred if we're not clear in that part of our energy. So how boundaries in relationship to relationships become impacted. And then specifically, if we look at how that energy and that wheel of different aspects of the chakra connect up to the heart is associated with things that we commonly would think of. So we think of our heart, we think of love, we think of joy, we think of passion. There are so many elements and aspects to the wheel of the heart chakra. But some of the shadow aspects of the heart chakra can really be feeling closed off, feeling jealous, feeling detached, and it houses the lung and the heart organ. So those organ energies are interesting too. The lung is tied in with grief most often, and the heart organ can be tied in with shock and betrayal. And so there are just so many dynamics happening. But if we look at boundaries, trust, and courage, which are some of the energies that I really connect in with at the sacral, and then drive that up to the heart and how that impacts the way in which we connect from the heart and are open to receiving love, loving others, it's really quite a powerful connection and relationship.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because, I allow these conversations for the show to be intuitively guided, and I don't always know why I'm asking the question I'm asking. Um, but, for some reason I was drawn to talk about those two particular chakras. And what's been up for me recently, in the last couple days especially, is realizing how difficult it is for me to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And how when I say no, like it takes a lot for me to say no, but then behind it often I will feel guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting how you're talking about boundaries, and I find that fascinating.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting to dive in deeply to some of these relationships and energies because it's almost like tracing an energetic line from one point to another. And you can discover so much about what's going on within you. And it also provides such great insight in how you can adjust things in your own energy to shift the way in which you respond or engage or feel
Mm-hmm.
and how you sense things. So, yeah, I would definitely say that there's a relationship there. And one of the topics that we cover in my immersion training in the heart chakra week is this concept of selfless generosity. And I think the term is fun, but it's such a thing. I mean, it's such, this giving. It's like if we look at the front and the back aspects of the energy in relationship to the heart, most people, and okay, let me back up for a second. The heart is the set point for the energy system from my perspective. So it's really easy for a lot of people who are sensitive to energy, and I believe that we all are, but some people just dial into that more or are more aware of it or consciously to work with that and develop it. We this is our set point, and it's really easy for a lot of us to operate from this part of the energy. Mm-hmm. But what tends to happen is most people are more comfortable in the front part of the energy than the back, and that can offset the way in which we navigate through our experiences in life. And so it can be much easier for a lot of people to give, put out, be dominant in this part of the energy, which is more of the action part of the energy, more of the giving part of the energy, and then not have the awareness to work with the back, which is tied in more with being, allowing, receiving. So if we look at that dynamic of how we are acting and what we're putting out into the world, and also how we are opening up to receiving and allowing, you can see how that can be quite a bit of dynamic tension that is always a dance. And so just sometimes bringing your awareness to, oh, there's this whole back part of the energy, that can be a huge aha for so many people that I work with. And I know it was for me, just bringing that into my awareness of, oh, wow, where am I right now? I am like really forward and really, and this is kind of the challenge for people who, so if using the term empathic, people who are really empathic, which I can connect in a lot of things with that term and with what I feel that means in the energy. But essentially what I feel that is really feeling and projecting forward from the heart. And the heart is such an intuitive part of the energy, but it's very different from the solar plexus intuition and the third eye chakra intuition. And I know you're just going to have to stop me, Angela, because I'm just going to keep going because there are so many things coming up here.
No, that's great. And that's the beauty of the co-creative experience, right, that we're having. Yeah.
I love it. So the heart is such an intuitive part of the energy. And I feel what's going on is that the solar plexus is kind of doing this. It's going, how am I separate? How am I separate from my environment? How am I separate from other people? How am I identified with my soul and myself? And then the heart is doing the opposite, where it's going like this. How am I one? How am I connected with everybody? How am I, part of the whole? And so there's this interesting dynamic of this kind of push and then pull happening at that part of the energy. And when we are really weighted in the front of the heart, it can offset a lot of other parts of the energy. So I'm not saying that you have to be detached or closed off or disconnected from the heart energy, but if you can bring your awareness to the front and the back aspects and also the awareness of that push pull, then it can really support the way in which you do sense energy and how you are navigating and how you are moving and operating from your own. And then just touching on the third eye chakra, intuition, which tends to be the most praised. That's the psychic intuition. That's the intuitive knowing, receiving auditory dream information, and it tends to be the most praised. But people will often think, well, I'm not psychic, or I don't, get these visions, and so therefore I'm not that intuitive. Well, you might be more intuitive from the heart or more intuitive from the solar plexus part of the energy, but everybody is intuitive.
Right. Yeah. So I want to talk more about the back areas, because I know for myself that that was something that I became aware of recently, and it felt like my energy on the back was just like pretty much plastered to my body.
Yeah.
And I have struggled with that forward movement. I've driven or had a lot of masculine energy that I've expressed over most of my life, and in the last couple years I've been shifting that. However, the back part of my energy system hasn't yet expanded to meet that. And so I'm wondering if you can talk more about that.
Definitely. So we can look at the back parts of the energy for the entire chakra system and kind of what those would be. And I think what's just coming through more is the awareness piece of, well, how the heck do you even work with the back of the energy? And let's see, let's do this. So let's just take a moment for everyone who's listening. Let's just take a moment and just close our eyes and connect in with our body. So taking a few deep breaths. And noticing in this moment where you feel your energy is hanging out. And by hanging out, I mean, where do you feel your energy is? Do you feel like it's grounded in your body? Do you feel like you're hovering above yourself, maybe projecting in front? Maybe this is the first time you've ever connected in with something like this and it feels hard to grasp. And that's totally fine too, but just really asking yourself where your energy is. So with that information, bringing your awareness to the solar plexus, so the solar plexus being the third chakra, and you can just place your hands over the front of your stomach. So let's start with one hand over the solar plexus in front, and that's just right in the upper central part of the abdomen. And let's bring the other hand to the back of that area. So making physical contact with this part of your body, allowing your awareness to shift into the solar plexus. And where do you feel your energy is in this part of your system? Where is it predominantly hanging out? And then with that information, inviting the energy of the solar plexus to shift out and back, to expand through the back, Once you feel like the energy can expand from the back, then inviting it to expand in all directions. And from this back part of the solar plexus energy, inviting universal energy to flow through this energy center, helping it stay expansive and allowing it to run down through the sacral, down through the root, all the way down into the earth. And flowing that universal energy through the back of the solar plexus up through the heart, the throat, the third eye, and then up through the crown chakra and connecting in with spirit. And noticing if anything shifts. But using this access point of the back of the solar plexus to tap into universal energy flow. And knowing that this is a place that you can always return to if you're feeling depleted, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling overwhelmed. And going from there, this is what I call my secret weapon, is the awareness of tapping into the back of the solar plexus.
Yeah, cool. That was interesting. It was challenging for me.
Yeah.
It felt like I really had to, it felt like a weak muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, this is hard.
And that's such a great description because, too, I think one of the challenges is, so many of us, like you're talking about being in the masculine part of the energy or in that kind of go action part of the energy. And that is what we tend to respond to more as a culture, and what is understood and what is praised and what is encouraged. And so to shift into that being part of the energy can be really uncomfortable. And we tend to connect with energy a lot of the time through the mental field. So we tend to stay in the visualization part, or the mental mind part of the energy, when really what we can train ourselves to do is to connect with the way in which energy is flowing. And that can get us out of the head and really into the physical experience of it.
Mm. Yeah, I'm going to have to practice that like several times. So, okay, so
I've been doing this for years, seriously.
Yeah.
It's challenging. It's challenging.
It is. Okay, so what will we notice as we learn to expand the backside of our energy? How will that change our life?
That's a really great question. So bringing the awareness to the back of the energy helps to center your own energy in your body. So if you're really hanging out in this front part of the energy, what tends to happen is there's a lot of projecting forward into other people's energy. And when you project forward, and most of this is not done consciously, but when you project forward into another person's energy, you are able to gather a lot of information. But it's very likely that when you're in that space, that you will bring that back into your own body, and then there's the possibility for it to be internalized, and it gets a lot trickier to discern self from other. So it's that whole going back to the solar plexus and what is me and what is not me.
So that's in a therapy term, a mental health therapy term, that would be called like enmeshment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So if you are able to stay centered in your own energy and in your own energy field, it can be incredibly supportive in learning to really perceive and observe what's going on both within you and also within other people without projecting into someone else's energy to have to see what's going on. And it's something that I think so many of us do without realizing it. And so if you've ever walked into a room and you sense someone's upset and you're really uncomfortable about it, there's so much that can start happening. It's like this cascade of events that starts happening in your own body. And so if you can move into this awareness and observation and this perceiving of what's going on, it's very different than having to jump into another person's energy to gain that insight.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm having an aha as you're talking because I think that's, how I was talking about my difficulty with saying no and then the guilt that I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like that's exactly what I'm doing, is that I'm projecting into their energy field, and then I'm taking on, it's like I'm taking on their energy and making an assessment, making I'm not sure exactly how to formulate what I'm saying, but interpret their energy based on my own feelings or whatever. Yeah.
Yes. And it's something that I've done all of my life. And it's something that I did for so long and in such an extreme way that it made me sick. And that really initiated this whole journey into, this realization, first the realization that, oh my God, I'm feeling everybody else's stuff and I'm internalizing that. Now what do I do? And I learned how to, over many, many years, how to observe what was going on in me, and then how to break that down and articulate it in a way so that other people could do the same, because it's not just me or just you having this experience. I think that so many people are having these experiences, and it gets so blurred and so muddled, and we experience so much anxiety and depression and so much as a result of feeling into other people, other situations. I mean, if we just watch the news and see what's going on, if you don't have the awareness of what is going on in your energy when you encounter something that's devastating, it can be really hard to recover from that. And sometimes that recovery takes minutes, hours, days, weeks, years. I mean, it's such a powerful thing to really work with what you have to work with, and that is your own energy, your own stuff. There's so much insight to be gained from just connecting in with what's going on inside of you.
Yeah, you don't need to take other people's stuff on. Yeah, I recently went to the airport and went to the area where people, when people come back out of security and they're met with their family and friends, and I was sitting there and just watching, and that was a joyful experience, but it evoked, I was tearing up, I was crying because I felt like the joy. But then if I watch, say, a YouTube video or someone post something on Facebook that's like you say, devastating, or something about animal abuse or anything like that, same thing. So yeah, and then what happens is we probably take that on and it gets into our cellular memory. Is that?
Yes, I believe that is all connected, and that's where it becomes trickier and trickier to really work with, okay, what is that? And something that we focus on again in Heart Chakra Week of my program, Heart Chakra, is the difference of the energetic difference between compassion and empathy. And that energetically, empathy can be this projecting forward into someone else's field. So you are able to feel what that person is feeling. But most of the time, when we do that, or when we get triggered into that empathetic response, we're meeting the person where they are. And oftentimes that can be in a really low place, or in a place of devastation and despair or anger, or whatever it is. And then there's almost, it's like if you could see your energy going out and then going down into the other person, pulling your energy back in can be really challenging, because then you're pulling that back inside you. And that's where I feel it gets synced up with the organ energies, and yes, and definitely cellular memory. And there's so much there to work with. But can when we can move about our lives from a place of compassion, compassion is very different energetically. It is very centered in the heart chakra. It's very expansive. It is love. It is all of the beauty of the heart chakra, but it allows you to stay in your own field, and it allows you to engage with people who might be really struggling, or be in an environment that might be really challenging, while still being in your own heart center. And that's incredibly empowering.
Yeah. Well, because you're really holding space versus if you're projecting into their energy, like you say, you're meeting them where they are, and it doesn't help anyone to lower your vibration.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that sounds like it's very empowering to learn how to differentiate that.
Yes. Lifelong practices, lifelong practices.
I know, right?
What I've realized and come to accept more now in this experience and this evolution of this system is that every time something new starts to come through, I go into the spectrum of it. There's a huge shadow part of the energy that has to be experienced in order to really understand the spectrum of it. And that the beginnings of that, before I realized that there was this whole system of assessment in my hands that I had been working with and didn't even realize, I really had to go through that dark night of the soul. And there was this whole experience of really truly learning what it was like to surrender in the energy. And when I did that, something clicked and something shifted, and it was where everything opened up. But getting to that point, man, I was not taken down to my knees easily, because I was on my knees praying, give me the courage to surrender to this, because I know that this is something trying to make its way through, but it can be so scary and so uncomfortable. And so this whole process has been about trust. It's been about courage, and it's been about faith. And the more that I have become comfortable in trusting this process and this system, the stronger and the more clear it becomes. But that experience can be really, really scary.
Yeah.
So as we're just honoring the natural flow of this conversation, maybe that's relevant to some of your listeners right now who are really struggling and going through challenging times. And that's where so much of the treasure lies, is in that sticky, muddled, challenging part of where you are.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that the trust piece is huge, and having the courage, because when you are blazing a new trail and you are ahead of, you're a new thought leader, you don't have other systems and other things to compare yourself or your program with. And so it's like you have to rely on that trust and keep stepping forward and following that inspiration and that guidance, and then see what sticks and see what falls away, but being able to stay with it and allow for that natural process to unfold. I mean, that's where all the power is. And
Yeah.
I'm
And
getting
again,
like goosebumps. All of my body just
oh, that's
talking.
so awesome. It's just like, again, getting into the back part of the energy. So much of this has been about, okay, how can gone through my training and every single person has connected with the Chakredy system and these specific presentations with the pendulum, I've moved into a place of, okay, I'm bringing this through and I can trust this, because if this can happen, anything can happen. And it's really, but getting to that place of, hope this works. I have no idea if this is going to work for people.
Yeah.
But trusting the glimpses and trusting that pull and really honoring that pull is what I feel I can turn to in moments of question and go back to, one of my teachers said, well, if you're wondering which thing to focus on now, why don't you just use your own system to prioritize? It's like, oh yeah. Going back to that.
That's so true. We forget our own tools, and
yeah.
It just, takes some outside person to remind us sometimes.
Definitely. And we all need that.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if we can do a assessment so people can see how that works. Before we do, I just want to mention really quickly a fabulous sponsor for the show today. I have naturally curly hair, and sometimes it just the curls get really heavy, and so it gets kind of stringy and straight and just doesn't do fabulous hair. So I recently connected with this woman. Her name is Courtney Gomia, and she specifically cuts curly hair. So what she does is she goes in and finds the natural curl pattern and cuts every single curl separately. So
oh, wow.
Yeah, so it
amazing.
Gives you awesome curls. Like it's amazing how well the curls it's like, they know exactly what to do. So anyway, I just wanted to give her a shout out. Her company is Grateful Heads Hair and Curls here in Portland, Oregon. So, if you have curly hair and you are struggling to manage your curls, definitely check her out. So.
Well, your hair looks great.
Thank you. Thank you. I you know what? I feel so blessed because I have the ability to go one way or the other. I can do straight and I can do
Me
curly.
too.
And I can't tell you how many years as a young girl actually, my mom and we would perm my hair and I'd have like 300 rollers in my head. I would go to bed and sleep in those rollers with the perm. And finally my hair decided to give up and just went curly.
I love that. I love that.
So, okay. So I want to ask you how you personally you activate the energy and connect in so that you're able to access the energy and sense the energy. How do you do that personally?
Yes. So there's a lot going on in the energetics for sure, but intuitively what I do is I ground myself. And then I open up my connection with what I call Chakredy, which is this higher energy field. And I just connect in with that field. And I ask for it to flow through me and bring my awareness to the back of my energy and let it do its thing. And of course, there are always moments where I am very connected with the intellectual piece of this. I mean, this is like, again, that dynamic dance between the intellect and the intuition. And I love connecting dots and observing patterns and playing mad scientist and theorizing about, it's like I get to gather my data every time that I do an assessment. Well, what does this suggest, or what am I curious about with this? But every single time I have this opportunity to allow the energy to guide me and notice where my mind wants to go. Like, oh, but I doubt that something's really going on with the thyroid, or this person's going to think I'm nuts that I'm saying this is prioritizing. And I notice that, and it still happens. That becomes there are days where that's stronger and days where that's quieter. But the more that I, again, go back to that trust in the system and the energy being able to lead the way, it just does its thing. It just does its thing.
Yeah.
So
Oh, and I love that you specifically focus on expanding your backside energy. That's awesome.
So I'm just connecting in with my energy where I am. I'm connecting in with the Chakredy field. And then I'm inviting in the Awakened Goddess show to just be, to come forth and have its energy looked at and assessed. And I'm just going to ask that I'm connected with the energy of the show, and I am. My pendulum's about to fall off the hook or fly off the hook.
Yeah, she's a very powerful presence.
Just like, let me tell you about this.
Yeah, that sounds like her.
So we're going to work with so we're looking at 4 presentations with the chakras. So I'm going to look at the chakra system for the show. I'm going to look at a prioritizing energy specific. We'll look at the organ energy. So it's treating the show like a being.
Right.
And so with the 4 chakra presentations, we're looking at contracted, chaotic, open, and expansive. And contracted communicates a depleted energy. Chaotic just suggests that the energy is all over the place. It's not finding a place of ease, but there is energy moving. Open is comfortable. There's a sense of ease there. And expansive is optimal. That's the really magnetic state. That is the optimal state. And then we'll look at a priority chakra and a priority organ and see what shows up.
All right.
Yes. Okay,
cool.
Let's do this. This is fun, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so the root chakra is presenting as chaotic. So is the sacral. Contracted at the solar plexus, expansive at the heart, expansive at the throat, expansive at the third eye, expansive at the crown. The solar plexus is the priority. And just going to see in relationship to the pancreas. Fun. So for me, this is like favorite chakra, favorite organ energy to work with. Okay, so this is what's really interesting about that. So there are a lot of ways that we can take that deeper. The pancreas energy, if we're looking at the challenge or the unresolved emotion part of the energy, there, of course, then is the potential of that energy too. And the pancreas is really connected in with worth. Worth is the primary energy that the pancreas houses. And so any unresolved or underlying energies that would be kind of that opposing or polarity of worth would be something to focus on. And then the solar plexus, again, is the house. I believe that this is from not I believe, but just from my lens and framework, the solar plexus for me is the house of the soul. So it's really where we align with our soul's work in the world. It's also got that forward part of the energy, the front part of the energy, which is essentially the go and the do. I mean, that is the solar plexus: action, confidence. And then there's the back part of it, which is relaxation and being connected in with universal energy flow from that part of your energy. And there's so many other things, but really authenticity, empowerment, alignment, and then this whole discernment piece of the solar plexus. So sensing energy from this part of your body, or with regard to the show, it would be, how there's so many things that it could be connected in with, but how is the show operating and navigating and moving in the world? And who are the people that are being attracted to it and really being rooted in the center of that energy. There's so many things that you could look at, but worth through the lens of the solar plexus.
Interesting. Yeah, because I'm at this growth point where resources are not matching the need at this point yet. So, like the show is in terms of monetization, the receiving piece is not yet moving steady. And so the capacity of the show is limited by my ability to like the resources. So like for example, like I really could use help with editing, and taking like some of these things because there's really a lot on my plate to maintain the show and grow the show. And so it's interesting that, worth is definitely associated with the money I see, coming in. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And just the difference between how the energy is presenting in the lower three chakras and how it's presenting in the upper four. So, there are some things that come to mind around that. So if we look at the chaotic presentation at the root and the sacral, so again, that being tied in with money, that being tied in with foundation, having the support, having the people, the manpower support too, resources like you're talking about. And where that gets really stuck and prioritizes is the solar plexus, and how I had mentioned before in the earlier part of the show, with this being the integration point for manifestation. It's like, this is all flowing up here. Yeah. No problem. Like you've got all the ideas, yeah, all the energy, connecting in with inspiration, all of that. And then it gets stuck at the integration piece to be brought through into physical form in a way that matches what's going on up here. So anything that you can do to bring, and I believe that because this is its own entity, it's its own energy, it's its own life force, but it's also been brought through into form through you. So the more that you can work personally with the solar plexus pancreas connection, the more too I feel that will respond and impact the show's energy too.
That's so fascinating. I didn't realize that you could, it doesn't surprise me, but I didn't realize you could use your system in so for someone's business, and I imagine you could do it with pets or
all sorts. It's like the options. This is where double Aquarius starts to go crazy because there are just so many possibilities and there are so many layers, and you can take things deeper and deeper and broader and broader, and it really is quite amazing. You can create containers for things that you are intending to bring through and things that you are calling in, and do that through the assessment. There are just so many ways to really utilize it. But I do feel that connection for you could be a really powerful one to explore. And just what we talked about, noticing where you are in your own energy here in relationship to other people and relationship to your environment. And the more that you start working with that, noticing how that impacts your business and your show too.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be practicing that, the energy, bringing the energy in from the back.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think that seems to really be the that turning, that piece that's missing. So it'll be interesting to work with that.
I have realized that there's a lot of activation that happens when you start connecting in, and we all connect in differently, right? But for me, every time that I pick up the pendulum, every time I do an assessment, every time I teach, something activates. And there's almost, I don't know if this is a term that comes up in some of the interviews that you've done, but a remembering that happens. And every time that I activate that energy, I remember more and more. And it's like this part of me that just intuitively understands that this works, even if I don't know exactly how and why. And the more comfortable I've become with not knowing exactly how, the stronger and the clearer the information comes through. And part of that has now evolved into me really being the mad scientist that I am at heart and creating my own frequency capture device. So I am out in the woods. I'm developing my own way of capturing frequencies, just like how, and it's different, but just like how you would with flower essences. The whole methodology behind that is that the flowers have the ability to communicate these properties and this healing potential, and that we can transfer the healing potential and the frequencies of the flower through water or through sunlight to then imprint the water with those frequencies. And so in different ways, because I work with sea salt as a medium, I'm doing that same thing. And it's allowing me to really broaden what it is that I'm working with. And so right now I'm developing an 8 lunar phase remedy set that will help us connect more with the rhythms of the moon. And so
That's very feminine.
I'm going out there, Angela.
I love it. I love it.
So fun. It's so magical.
It is.
Magic.
Yeah. And if you guys are interested in finding out more about what you're talking about, the flower essences, there was a great interview I did with Roberta Mackerel. She's here in Portland, and she's been working with, speaking with plant spirits for the last 44 years. And yeah, incredible interview. So definitely check that one out.
Have to check that out.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if there's a last tip that you would like to leave the viewers with.
Oh my goodness.
I know, because we've covered so much. I mean, we've gone down the rabbit hole and
we totally have, right?
Into the stratosphere.
It's so true. I would just say that, you are connected and you are intuitive and you have the innate ability within you to be completely dialed in to the magic and the co-creation with the unseen. And the more that you can bring your awareness and your desire to that connection, it opens up so many doors. So I would just encourage everyone to pursue what's calling them and to really truly feel in every cell of your body how connected you really are, because you are an incredibly intuitive being, and there's so much magic out there for you to experience and bring through.
Yeah, you all might have your own systems of brilliance just waiting to be birthed. So
yes.
Yeah.
Bring it through, baby. Bring it through.
Yeah. And then you have a special gift for the viewers. Can you tell us about that?
I do. I have put together a little master chart of the 7 chakra and the 13 organ energies. So what I used to refer to as the imbalanced and balanced states, but I'm connecting with new terminology. So challenge and potential, or basically the spectrum of the energies. So I'm going to gift everyone that chart. And then if you're interested in learning more about the solar plexus, I've got a little something for you too.
A little something.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, this was just an incredible conversation. And thank you so much, Alexis, for joining me today.
Thank you so much. And you are such a wonderful hostess and facilitator. And it's so easy to just have an amazing conversation because it flows so effortlessly through you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. I hope you enjoyed today's guest and got something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at theawakenedgoddess.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.